Alright, so we're jumping in right where we left off. We're going to end up crossing the river over to the other side here with this ferry. So let's speak to the ferryman. On the attack, the Galata Den is now secure, but Yusuf has not returned from his fight. Go to the Imperial North Den near the bazaar to find him. Do not create any conflict in the Imperial North District for full synchronization.
Ezio! Come meet my new friends!
Well, it looks like Yusuf's in trouble. We should probably help him out. Then maybe after that we'll look at our database entry that just popped up.
You fight like a man late for his own wedding.
See, by about 25 years.
I was too late to save the bazaar then, unfortunately. But now that my army has doubled in size, we'll take it back together. This way! When the Templars take control of a district, they flaunt their presence. Hanging banners, extorting the merchants. It's a constant battle to keep them at bay. And they rub our noses in every victory.
Prosphorian and Neorian harbors, two small ports on the northern edge of Constantinople's peninsula, nestled in the Golden Horn estuary. In the Byzantine era, both ports would have benefited from the protection offered by the great chain strung across the mouth of the Golden Horn.
Quite bold. Why does the Sultan tolerate this?
Sultan Bayezid is far away, Ezio, warring with his son Selim, many Fersa northwest of the city. He has been away for years, at least since the earthquake, and maybe even before. He is blind to all this turmoil.
Ah, but your eyes are open, see?
Hem defal, Tashigibi. Believe it. Too many to engage directly.
I am not confident a smoke bomb will help us here.
Smoke bomb? Ezio, it's time you Italians joined the 16th century. These do not obscure. They distract. You see? They can't resist. Let's move.
You are full of surprises today.
Crafting explosives is a new hobby. One we borrowed from the Chinese and have taken to with great passion.
You will have to teach me.
Who is the mentor here, Ezio? I'm beginning to wonder.
It's not the work of the Safavids, but a minor difference of opinion between Sublime, Vezin, and Prince.
So essentially it's a firework that goes off and then the guards go and investigate it. Could be useful. Perhaps we'll learn how to make these at some point and use them for some of our assassinations, or even just getting into places.
Your turn. Make me proud.
Throw a cherry bomb into the street to attract the guards to the source of the sound. You'd think they'd catch on after a while, but I guess we'll find out. Hold E to aim. Alright. Ezio, is that your stream, brother? Pretty legit. Okay, so we've destroyed some people's eardrums,
There they go.
but we got the attention of the guards.
Hurry! We're nearly there.
Oh yeah, I forgot we were going to that den.
This is another of our many dens, taken by Templars, as you can see. Somewhere among this rabble is a Templar captain. Kill him, then climb the tower and light our signal fire. This warns the Templars that it is time to pack up and go.
Bene, you create a distraction. I will send them home.
I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on for nobody to be noticing.
Ezio, over here. Whenever the Templars commandeer one of our dens, they leave a captain in charge. Search the area carefully, and you might see him strutting about like a peacock. Use those legendary senses of yours, Ezio, and scan the streets. You'll find our target.
Alright. So we have a captain of the den, just like last time, when we had the captains of those control areas. We kill him, light the signal fire on top of the tower, and bing bang boom, Ezio's your uncle. And just like last time, if we decide not to do the viewpoint, it activates it for us when we start the fire in the tower. Only 50%. But that completes Sequest 2. And we're actually going to move on here. We're not going to stop yet.
I'm seeing very strange activity in the Animus.
Oh?
The CPU should be fairly idle, but the system monitor is spiking regularly, sometimes as high as 85%.
Is it serious?
I'm not sure. Desmond's signs are stable.
Well, if there isn't a problem, let's not try to fix anything.
Fair enough. God, I need a drink.
Desmond, think about this. What if I went with you?
With me? Where?
It could work. Just for a while. Until I found a way out. Another body, maybe, or I don't know. I don't want to be here anymore.
That's not going to happen. I'm sorry.
No. I guess I had my chance. And I wasted it.
Were they close? Desmond and Lucy? I mean, closer than friends?
Well, there was the occasional misty-eyed moment, but,
She liked him, Bill. That's what she told me. Interesting.
that's it? Just Interesting?
I spent a lot of time training each of them when they were younger. She was a remarkable woman. I just find this whole situation quite sad.
Sad? Are you finally getting soft on us, Bill?
Does make you feel a little bit sad for Subject 16. I mean, essentially, he lost his mind inside of here, and now he's a part of it. But yeah, so Desmond here gets to keep on going as they talk about Lucy, and he gets to hear about it. Alright, let's continue.
Claudia, Constantinople, called Istanbul by the Turks, has welcomed me as one of its own. The assassins here, led by an affable fighter named Yusuf, take great pride in their city, a place as diverse and colorful as one could imagine. But it is a troubled city too. A rebellious faction of Byzantine templars still fights to retain influence, and their recent attacks have delayed my search for the Masyav keys. But this will not last. As soon as I am able, I will begin looking for Nicolo Polo's former trading post, in search of clues that will bring me nearer to the Masyav keys.
Sequence 3, Lost and Found.
How did we do?
We have won the day and recovered Darden. But we lost a few friends in this fight.
So much death for so little gain.
You have some experience recruiting new assassins, do you not?
More than a little.
The people here are quite sick of these Templar attacks. Can you turn on your charms and find us a few more recruits?
See, but these den will not do for training them. Not this soon.
A good point. Speak with one of my men in Galata after you are finished. He can help you begin their training.
Yusuf seems like he cares. Like he's a good guy. And I think Ezio is pretty glad to be helping him out. We have to go quite a little bit to find our next objective here, or the start of our next mission. But we do at these cages over here.
Are you a compassionate man, Effendi? Can you help me? That I stole fruit from a vendor, I will not deny. But only because my hunger has trumped my honesty. Bring me the key to these chains, and I will repay you tenfold.
The prisoner. A man has been arrested for stealing food. Show him some mercy. Pickpocket the guard to
Wait
retrieve
right
the key.
here.
Obviously.
Okay, so our first recruit happens to be a thief. I guess it's fine. It's not like we have anything going on for him to take.
The stewards know you shelter him, and will imprison and question the rest of you if he is not located within full range.
Finding our way in, we can activate Eagle Vision and look around to find our target. Fortunately, there's lots of guards around. Avoiding any more unwanted attention, we can find our target.
Wait. Hey.
Looks like we got an additional quest there. from this gentleman waiting. I don't think that we're going to pickpocket this key. Especially if they are trying to beat the crap out of us. After a while, we run away and blend, come back.
Where's Heathrow?
And of course, we don't steal the key because he noticed us. So instead, we'll pretend like we're just a worker, which doesn't work. And this guy clobbers us. And we kill this guy to get the key. Now, since we have the key, we can take these crates that we somehow stumbled into down to their destination, get paid, and get our man out of prison.
My thanks. Here. Good work, and it's good pay.
For helping the man go, I don't know, 30 feet, he gives us $500 and some coal dust, which can be used in bombs.
There must be a reason.
Now we can go back to doing what we were supposed to be doing, and that's getting our thief out of chains.
You humble me, Effendi. I will return to the merchant I robbed and show him the same kindness.
After you have cleared your conscience, amico, consider joining our cause. To be an honest man, one needs honest work.
I would be honored. Saul.
I don't mind this way of doing things. I just kind of hope that not every single one of these new assassins that we have to recruit, or can recruit, is a full-on quest. Wandering through the city looking for a viewpoint, we find a database entry for heralds. Proclamations, local laws, news, market days, and advertisements were all called out by heralds. Since many people in the 16th century could not read, in Ottoman Constantinople, heralds were joined by their cousin the muezzin, the criers who stand atop minarets and perform the daily calls of prayer. We have inadvertently entered a Templar den, and we might want to see about liberating it. So we should proceed doing what we've learned, finding the captain, killing him, and lighting the fire at the top of the tower. Unfortunately, we couldn't sneak past these guards. After evading the guards, we finally find the captain, who unfortunately runs from us. We end up losing him. And then we must retreat until later. After we leave, we find ourselves at a thieves' den. Walking inside, we can talk to one of the thieves for our next quest.
Arkadašian, you look distracted.
Quite. I have a lot on my mind. Someone in this district is funding a campaign to get us arrested.
How so?
Well-placed bribes to Ottoman guards, tipping them off to our actions. We do not want a conflict with our hosts, but we are not keen to surrender to them either.
Do you have an idea where this money is coming from?
I hope to find out today. Would you care to aid me? I will make it worth your while.
Alright, time to make some friends. Loose lips. Thieving has grown more difficult due to an increase in snitching. Bait a snitch into leading you to the source of the money funding him. Then, eliminate and loot the source. Using a thief group, lure the benefactor from his security zone before killing him for full synchronization.
See, how can I help?
We know that the Ottomans were paid a large bribe today. We are going to steal it. Once that happens, someone is sure to send an urgent message back to the money source. Follow the messenger, and we will have our man.
Okay, so we can follow our thief friend to steal the money and start this little mission he's got planned. After a decent walk, we find our objectives.
Impressive moves.
We hire a thieves group to get rid of the guards so that we can steal the cash they're guarding. Turns out only one is brave enough to deal with this. The other two chicken out, and one doesn't move at all. He must have been the new guy. Either way, the one that's going to get massacred by those 4 guards is a hero to us. And the one thief ends up stealing the money. And now, within this radius, we need to find our snitch.
Where is he going?
There he is. Now we must follow him to his benefactor. Following the man through the streets of Constantinople, we find him enter a guarded area restricted to us. We can get a better vantage point to see what's going on, since he seems to have stopped.
What are you doing here? I told you to keep an eye on those soldiers.
Forgive me, Halim Bey, but thieves have stolen the bribe.
What? How did they know?
I'm not sure.
If our contacts in the Ottoman ranks do not get their money, we do not keep our special relationship intact.
But what could I do?
Nothing, obviously. You're just a worm. Now get out of my face. It is an insult that I should pay so much to gain so little.
Now that that's all said and done, I suppose it's time to get down to business. First, we can get rid of some more guards. This should
Keep your eyes open for those
help us
sneaky
later.
thieves. They may be coming for us next.
And now to strike.
Or rather, I don't care. You are scared. Get far. Amande. I've lost sight of there. I have him.
What on
Drinking too much coffee. That could be too much coffee. With you, we would like a word.
Unfortunately, luring those 2 guards away didn't do that much, but we can find a cart nearby and hide in it until these guards go away. After the guards have lost scent of us, we can go back to the benefactor and search him to complete the mission.
You got away with the money?
Evet, about half of it. The rest we distributed to the people. It keeps them honest.
Just make sure you do not turn into the criminals you are fighting.
Point taken. Why don't you stick around and keep us in line?
I will call on you when I need a favor. You can count on that.
I'm sure keeping thieves honest isn't the greatest job in the world. In Italy, we knew that thieves helped keep each other honest. Here seems to be a different story. I decided to get a view of the city. We get a database entry for Hagia Sophia. 2 earlier churches occupied the spot where Hagia Sophia stands, both of which were destroyed within 100 years of their construction. But the third building, built by the Emperor Justinian in the 6th century CE, was a masterpiece, built to last, and for almost 1,000 years it stood as the largest cathedral in all Christendom, east and west. Following the Ottoman conquest of Constantinople in 1453, Sultan Muhammad swiftly converted the church into a mosque, Hagia Sophia Kami. But because he revered the building and its impressive history, he kept the structure and its contents virtually unchanged. The 4 minarets around its perimeter were added at various times in the century after conquest. These days, Hagia Sophia is not an official place of worship. Rather, it is a museum, so if you visit, keep this in mind. The voice you hear echoing between your ears might just be the guided audio tour. Now we can climb to the top of this nearby tower to get a view of the surrounding area. Heading off to another viewpoint, we have to enter a rather large area that is restricted to us. But we find another database entry, this time for Topkapi Palace. In the dwindling years of the Byzantine Empire, many of the once great imperial palaces lay in ruin, shattered by centuries of fighting and economic collapse. Following the Ottoman conquest, Mehmet II ignored all previously developed imperial sites in favor of a strategically secure spot atop First Hill at the very tip of the peninsula. Construction on the Sultan's new palace, called Yeni Sarai, or New Palace, initially began in 1459 and would conclude almost 10 years later, although every subsequent sultan would continue to add to the complex. Topkapi would see more of its greatest expansions under the 50-year reign of Suleiman the Magnificent. For many centuries thereafter, Topkapi Palace served as the centerpiece of the Sultan's power and contained everything he needed to comfortably oversee his empire. The harem for raising and educating the wives of future royalty, the divan for his meetings with the Sublime Porte, barracks for the Jausenaries, and the Sultan's personal residence. But the tastes of some sultans were notoriously fickle, and for a brief period near the end of his reign, Sultan Bayezid II temporarily relocated himself to Erdin in the north giving our beloved assassins a bit more leeway to wander the palace grounds without attracting too much attention. Before making it to a next viewpoint, we find some ladies dancing and a man doing some fire tricks. Romanis. The Romani people, also called Roma, Romain, or Gypsies, are a semi-nomadic, stateless people found all over the Middle East and much of Europe. Originally hailing from southern Asia, in and around present-day Afghanistan, and northern India, they are a fiercely independent culture with a reputation for refusing to assimilate to their host nations. But despite centuries of frosty relations with their neighbors, the Romani have endured. Sometimes at the expense of others, often in spite of great hardship, and retained a rich and varied culture all their own. The confused term gypsy derives from the mistaken impression that the Romanis were originally from Egypt and northern Africa.
The family of the silk merchant, Yerman of Bursa. The stewards know you shelter him, and will imprison...
While heading to another viewpoint, we get a database entry for the Hippodrome. The Hippodrome once stood as one of the purest examples of Constantinople's classical Greek origins. Though the original structure dates back to pre-Roman times, when the city was still called Byzantium, the Hippodrome was enlarged and improved by Constantine the Great and remained in use for nearly 800 years. It began to fall into despair after 1200, around the time of the Fourth Crusade, when marauding Christian armies from the west, sent forth by Pope Innocent III, sacked the city on their way to the Holy Land. By the time Byzantine Emperor Mikhail Palaiologos had recaptured the city in 1261, the Hippodrome was in a poor state, and he made no effort to restore it to its former glory. When the Ottomans took over in 1453, all hope that it would ever be repaired dwindled to nothing, since chariot racing wasn't really a Turkish hobby. I do love all the history that they put into these games. It's most of it, if not all of it, except for what's based around your character and some of the other characters that have direct contact with Ezio and the player characters, are actually real. This Hippodrome was a real thing. Today it looks very different. Yeah, I mean, I would love to go and see it someday. But it turns out there's like a big structure right where it stands. Again, it would still be awesome to go and see. This Constantinople, or Istanbul, looks, by all accounts, by a very, very beautiful place. Going to our next point of interest, we find another database entry, the Forum of Theodosius, the largest of the public squares in Byzantine Constantinople. The Forum of Theodosius was repaired, improved, and christened in 393 by Emperor Theodosius himself to commemorate his victories in battle and politics. The most prominent feature of the forum, standing at its center, was the triumphal column of Theodosius, built with an internal spiral staircase to allow visitors a grand view of the city. Over subsequent centuries, the forum was gradually built over, dismantled, and damaged by earthquakes, until it had all but vanished. Columns, arches, cobblestones, and all, until a large portion of it was unearthed again in the middle of the 20th century. After another short time, we run into the Grand Bazaar, one of the earliest and most important projects undertaken by Sultan Mehmet following his conquest of Constantinople was the construction of the Grand, or Covered, Bazaar, an enormous enclosed hub of commerce and trade. The Grand Bazaar's close proximity to the Golden Horn waterway to the north gave merchants easy access to and from ships arriving from all over the world, and its centralized location on the peninsula ensured that all citizens had reasonable access to its bustling corridors. Located at the heart of the complex is the old Bedesten, a fortified enclosure built by Mehmet II, originally used by merchants to store precious goods and expensive wares overnight. Today, the bazaar contains more than 3,000 shops and employees, upwards of 20,000 people. And they aren't kidding when they say grand. If you've been here, which I have not, but if you look it up, it'll actually show you an image of the, bird's eye view looking down on this bazaar, and it is massive, and it's clearly been very well upkept. Inside the bazaar, we find our destination, and a man behind a counter, a Mr. Pairi Rias. Born somewhere in the Ottoman Empire, sometime around 1467, give or take a few years, Haki Ahmed Muhyiddin Pairi was not quite so mysterious as his vague origins may imply. He was an accomplished seafarer and officer in the Ottoman Navy. Sea-bound by his early teens, he got his first experience as a privateer sailing on expeditions of dubious legality with his uncle Kemal in and around the Mediterranean. By the time he was in his 20s, he and his uncle had both joined the Ottoman Navy, trading their rough freedom for respectability. In 1503, at the close of the Ottoman-Venetian conflict, Pairi's taste for military adventure waned for a time, and he shifted his interests to intellectual pursuits, beginning a serious study of cartography. In 1506, after some initial and unfortunate disagreements with the assassins, Pairi joined their ranks. Not as a warrior, however, but as a scholar and technician. For all that he had seen in his years as a sailor, he had grown bored of the artificial boundaries that separate nations from one another, and felt the assassins offered the truest intellectual freedoms. In late 1511, after the sudden death of his uncle, Pairi took to the seas once again to study navigation and hone his drafting skills. By 1513, he had produced what would eventually be considered the most famous map, a small work best known for containing one of the earliest accurate depictions of the eastern shore of South America. Through the next few decades, Pyrie continued to make maps and perfect his skill as a craftsman of rare artistic and technical talent. It wasn't until Pyrie was in his early 80s that he officially earned the rank of Reis, or Admiral, by which point he was a legend in the Ottoman Navy. Okay, so this guy here is actually very famous for a special map that he drew that depicted the New World after Christopher Columbus had sighted it. I tried to look up if he'd ever sailed over there. It doesn't actually tell me that. So if you guys know, if you make it this far into the video, please do tell me. I would be interested to hear about it. But yeah, as we know, Christopher Columbus had already by this time gone over and sighted land in the New World. And so, you know, that would have already been discovered. Maybe by this time not too well known, but yeah. I believe that like the conquistadors at this time were either preparing or going over to the New World to conquer. The Bayezid Mosque is what we encounter next. Emperor Bayezid II was the second sultan to call Constantinople his home, and the second to build himself a commemorative mosque, the Bayezid Gami, or when referring to the larger complex surrounding the mosque, the Bayezidai. Somewhat smaller than Hagia Sophia to the east, it is nevertheless a charming structure with unique features not found on other mosques of the period. Most notably the enclosed peristyle out front with its ornate columns and tranquil courtyard. Though newer than Mehmet II's faith mosque, the Bayezid Mosque stands today as the oldest and best example of early Ottoman architecture in the city, owing to the extensive renovations needed to restore the earlier structure after a massive earthquake in 1766. After this, we can go to some assassin dens to liberate them. But before we get to it, we get a database entry for the Great Nymphaeum. Centralized around a large ornate water fountain, the Great Nymphaeum was a public sanctuary built by early Romans in honor of pagan spirits called nymphs. A common feature of many Roman cities, Nymphaeum, in addition to serving as small reservoirs and gardens, were frequently used by citizens for all manner of public functions, such as weddings, parties, and general assemblies. In later centuries, the term nymphaeum was also used to denote brothels or bordellos, an unfortunate semantic evolution that likely resulted in some unfortunate misunderstandings during Constantinople's summer months. We finally make it to our objective. We can ask these ladies to help us out. The gentleman decides to leave the area for a bit. while we wander around this restricted area. While searching for the Templar captain, we receive a database entry. The Zairik Mosque, one of the largest and best examples of Byzantine architecture still standing today, the Zairik Mosque began service in the 12th century as an Eastern Orthodox monastery. It grew dramatically over the following decades, acquiring a library, hospital, a second church, a courtyard, and a tomb in less than 100 years. During the Latin occupation of the city, the complex was the Vatican clergy's see until the restoration of the Palaiologos dynasty reinstated its Orthodox monks. Once the Ottomans took over, the entire building complex took on a multifaceted, multicultural role. Muslims used one of the buildings as a madrasa, while Christians were still permitted to worship in the church's facilities. I saw that we missed a database entry earlier. Our gypsies seem to have left us. We'll get to that database entry that we missed later on. The area of this one is so large, and unfortunately we've gotten ourselves into some trouble, but eventually find the captains. That's right, there are multiple captains in this den, and we must dispatch both of them. There's so many guys around right now, I only have one choice. I go straight after the captains. Hopefully this disbands his crew. Looks like the plan worked. All the guards in the area have run off. Now we must climb the tower, light the signal fire, and tell everyone that this area is liberated. A short time later, we run into Little Hagia Sophia. The Ottomans called that one Küçük Hagia Sophia, or Little Hagia Sophia. It was a Byzantine church initially built sometime around 1500, and many believe it served as an early prototype for the larger Hagia Sophia cathedral built a few decades later. But I have my doubts. The two buildings may share some salient aesthetic features, but their structure elements are vastly different. It's obvious, right? I mean, if you bother to look closely. Moving along, we can visit some mercenaries. These guys happen to have a quest for us.
The bastard! The damn bastards! I will tear off their arms and use them as clubs.
Calm, friend. Anger is the enemy of caution.
Those Byzantine thugs kidnapped my son, Ezio. To get at me, they attack an innocent boy.
We can get your son back, but only if we coordinate and act carefully.
Evet, of course. If you lead, I will follow.
Unfortunate son. Several mercenaries have been captured and detained. Infiltrate where they are being held and kill the people responsible. Free the captured mercenaries without being detected for full sync. Alright, let's head off with our merry band of men.
He sees violence.
Is he breathing? Does he live?
Cannot say. He's as still as a corpse.
He may yet have a pulse, but I am not trained for such things.
Sonuncusu. Ardından eve gidebiliriz.
These guards, the guards are onto me. We need to get out of here and hide for a minute. Oh, we may have done ourselves a favor there and distracted these guards. And we have, they're gone. We can now interact with the mercenary.
His heart is weak, but he lives.
Poison. There is no other explanation.
If so, there may be a remedy.
We will get him to a doctor.
Alright, we need to find a doctor quickly. Looks like it's marked on our map, so we'll head there. While the mercenaries take care of the guards and keep them distracted.
I'm innocent. Not involved.
Hakim Effendi, this boy has been poisoned.
Give me room.
Trap. It's a trap.
Say again?
The Templars. They used me as bait. To flush you out. To kill all of you.
Have we been followed?
I would not doubt it.
Take positions, and be ready for anything.
Looks like we're getting ambushed.
Keep this boy from harm. Let no one get close. Hold the line!
What line? This is chaos, Ezio.
Steady!
This doctor is amazing. He must have gone through war at some point, being able to
keep close.
do this under all this stress behind him. Also, that mercenary kept hitting me. It sucked.
Do not waver. Hold the line.
Our blade bites best.
Steady.
Go to hell, Grunt. Get him!
Keep close.
I have nothing to
Do not waver.
My boy, how do you feel?
I am fine, father. Stop doting.
Well, if you think saving your life is doting, there may be hope for you yet.
Oh, I need to lay down.
Drink water and keep still. Agitation speeds the poison through your body.
Teşekkür ederim Ezio. I owe you a great debt.
While heading over to another viewpoint, we see the Galandarin Mosque, another Orthodox church converted into a mosque. This structure was constructed on the site of an old Roman bath in the 6th century, together with Hagia Sophia and Zyric Mosque. Today, the Kalandrain Mosque is one of the best extant examples of Byzantine architecture.
Usually.
The city is gripped in terror, held captive by the damnable axe of the assassin
I was listening to that. Don't talk about it. Ah, gotcha, sucker. Nothing's going on here. Just me and the gypsies, the Romanis. All right, let's get to this next viewpoint. Turns out it's in a Templar den. Hopefully, we can take this guy down. I think it'll help since we have our Romani counterparts back here helping us.
A bit old to be living about, no?
And let's see. We have identified our target. Let's go and get him. After some time, we get close.
Impressive moves.
However, the only thing to do is to stalk our prey until we can strike. With the guards around, this might not be our best moment. But soon, his time will come. Now.
I should have taken orders at Mount Athos. You will not
And he ran.
Oh no!
Unfortunately, our stealth assassination didn't work, but we were able to catch up and kill the Templar captain anyways. Now, it's time to climb to the top of this tower, light the signal fire, and tell everyone about their own liberation. Well, that didn't go as smoothly as I thought it was going to, but nonetheless, we took care of it. And the area is now under assassin influence. So we can continue on getting some viewpoints. There are several we can get to, so we might as well go and explore the city and take in as much of the sights as we can. This one, as you can see, is a Templar den, soon to be an assassin den. I like the fire signal in the towers rather than burning the tower and making it explode. As we're running around, we see the Forum of the Ox, located near the western walls of early Roman Constantinople. The Forum of the Ox, or Forum Bovis, saw most of its traffic in the form of pompous parades thrown by emperors entering the city. One of many forums built by the early emperors of Nova Roma, and one of a number gradually built over by subsequent generations. The Forum of the Ox succumbed to the fate of so many public spaces. People see open land, and they can't help but fill it up with stuff. This one is the Column of Marcian, Another column dedicated to a forgotten emperor, one Marcian by name, circa 455. This fine example of a Corinthian column is still standing today, holding up nothing but the sky, a few clouds, and centuries of forgotten dreams. Relative to other columns scattered around the city, this one is still in rather good shape.
They must be put to death with all haste.
After a while, we find ourselves stalking another Templar captain in his den. We dispatch him quickly and light the signal fire to tell the people what they need to see. Before taking in the sights of this viewpoint, we get a database entry for Fatih Kamiai. Fatih Kamiai, or Faith Mosque, was built by the Turks just after the conquest of Constantinople and was the first mosque of Ottoman origin in the city. As one amusing story goes, after Sultan Mehmet realized that the Dome of Faith Kamiai was built smaller than Hagia Sophia's, he had the architect's hands cut off for lack of ambition. This, the architect felt, was unfair, and after his wounds healed, he contacted a local member of the Ottoman judiciary for legal counsel. The judge surprisingly sided with the architect and ordered that the Sultan's arm be cut off in retribution. This did not happen, of course, but the very fact that the judge sided with a civilian over his Sultan and was not reprimanded is noteworthy. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that anyone would have done that either. That's interesting. River Lycus. The River Lycus flows southeast across Constantinople's main peninsula, cutting a straight valley between the first 6 hills to the east and the large 7th hill to the west. The Lycus is notable for the fact that the final 2,000 meters of the river flow underground before dumping into the harbor of Theodosius on the southern edge of the city. Here we are at the river. Looks like that guy's following our example. Fenari Isa Mosque, built in 908 CE on the remains of a shrine from the 6th century. The Fenari Isa Mosque first began its worldly service as a nunnery, inaugurated by Byzantine Admiral Constantine Lips, henceforth referred to as the Lips Monastery. It was one of the largest of its kind in Constantinople. After the restoration of the Paleologian dynasty in 1261, the widow of Emperor Michael Paleologos built a church just south of the monastery, which over the next few centuries was gradually built up and renovated to such an extent that the two structures became one. As an interesting side note, Admiral Constantine Lips had a son named Bardus Lips. I just think that deserves mentioning. I do find it interesting that Sean has the time to put these database entries into the Animus, but not knowing that Desmond's seeing any of them. He's in a coma. They know that there's maybe something going on. They're not sure about it, but yet Sean's in here making jokes and telling us about these historical things. It's appreciated, and I get that it's now like part of the games, and I like it, but it doesn't actually make any sense. Jumping out of our haystack wagon, we get a database entry for the Forum of Arcadius, built by and dedicated to the 5th century Byzantine Emperor Arcadius. This forum lay just east of the city walls, built by Emperor Constantine the Great. Like most Roman and Byzantine forums, it too contained a column dedicated to its founder, although all that remains of it today are a few broken stones. Eventually converted into a small bazaar by the Ottomans, the Forum of Arcadius, located in one of the poorer districts of the city, was often used for the auctioning of slaves. After this, we'll hit up a Templar den, and unfortunately we're not doing so well. Hopefully we can kill this guy before they kill us. And with that, they flee. I killed a guy from 5 feet away. Threw another guy. That's impressive. Only one more viewpoint left to get. Before we find it, another database entry. The San Qatar Hayretin Mosque. The San Qatar Mosque was one part of a larger monastery complex, now demolished. Today it is known as a meshidi, a small mosque. I'm not sure when it was built, but the style appears to be late Byzantine, perhaps something from the 14th century. The height of the Paleologian dynasty, a very simple structure made of rough brick and simple shapes. It doesn't always appear on many must-see lists, but there is a humble elegance to its construction that is worth seeing. Every now and then I received a message about going to the bank, but before we got there, we discovered the Valens Aqueduct. Likely the most successful architectural project in the history of Constantinople, the Valens Aqueduct served the city with fresh water almost continuously for nearly 1,600 years. Built in 375 by the Emperor Valens, it was used and repaired by Byzantine, Latin, and Ottoman dynasties until well after Sultan Mustafa's final major restoration in 1679. The aqueduct continued to bring small amounts of fresh water into the city until the late 19th century, when it was ultimately and perhaps mercifully replaced by a more modern water delivery system: pipes. Today, the aqueduct is about 600 meters in length, about half its original size.
They must be erased.
After a while, we finally get to a bank, and we receive a database entry for bankers. Due to a few tenets of Islamic law, specifically the injunction against charging interest for profit, modern banking, as we know it today, was not officially endorsed by Ottoman authorities until the middle of the 19th century. In its place was a quasi-religious network of wakf, or moneylenders, who were required to spend all their interest earned on social and religious programs. Non-Muslim populations were exempt from these strictures, however, which led to the early formation of the more familiar banking operations, especially in Galata, where enclaves of Greeks, Jews, and Armenians flourished. And with that, all the information gained, and us trying to throw a knife into the banker and then withdraw our money, we can end this episode and continue next time pretty much right where we left off, with our main quest here. I'd like to thank anyone for watching and making it this far. If you did, just go ahead and tell me what you think. Give it a like, a dislike, whatever you feel. And yeah, leave a comment down below if you would. Just pretty much say anything, and I'll probably respond to it. Again, I do appreciate anyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And we will see you on the next episode.